What happens when a black man helps a stranger on a quiet Memphis street, only to be surrounded by a gang who thinks he doesn't belong? The crowd watches in silence until 10 seconds flip the entire scene upside down. Let me paint you a picture. Saturday, mid-July, Memphis heat pressing down like an old grudge. I was on my way to the community center, same one I've volunteered at for years, carrying a duffel bag full of first aid kits and some sandwiches the church ladies had packed up for our shift. No music, no fanfare, just another day trying to do some good in a city that don't always care. I stopped at the corner near Madison Avenue. That's when I saw her. White woman, maybe in her 70s, short gray hair, one of them wide sun hats drooping over her face. She was gripping the bus stop pole with one hand and reaching for something in her purse with the other, but her body was swaying like a tree right before it snaps in the wind. Then she crumpled, not stumbled, not sat, collapsed, legs folded, arms limp, face toward the concrete like she was about to kiss the curb. Nobody moved. Folks froze like the pavement was lava. I dropped my bag, sprinted across the street like instinct had kicked the door down in my brain. I didn't know her name, didn't need to. I knelt beside her, gently turned her over, checked her pulse. Weak, but there. Breath, shallow. Skin pale and clammy. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" I said, loud but calm. Nothing. Pulled on my gloves. Yeah, I carry gloves, trauma shears, a CPR shield, all of it. I don't play when someone's down. Slid my hand under her neck, propped her up a bit, checked for response again. Still out. My body blocked the sun from her face. I was focused. And that's when I heard it. "Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing?" I looked up. 3 men. White. Late 20s, maybe early 30s. Big, the kind who don't walk, they stomp. Leather vests with patches and skulls. Beer guts wrapped in muscle and bad decisions. One of them had a chain on his belt, like it was still 1985, and he just finished moshing. They were walking straight toward me, like I owed 'em something. "Is she your grandma or something, huh?" one of them said. The tallest one, with a beard like it was trying to run away from his face. I stood slowly, calm, firm. She passed out. I'm a medic. I'm helping her until EMS gets here. The one with the buzz cut stepped closer, puffing out his chest like that made his brain bigger. "You ain't supposed to be touching her. You think we don't know what you're really up to?" Now let me be clear. I've been black long enough to read between the lines. I knew what this was. Wasn't about the woman. Wasn't about her safety. It was about me, being there, existing, and them deciding that was one step too far. The third guy, the quiet one, always the quiet ones, cracked his knuckles. That's when I felt it. That tightness in the air. The kind you feel right before thunder claps. I glanced around. 10, maybe 12 bystanders. Phones out, cameras up, but not a single person saying a word. A whole crowd watching, but silence thick enough to chew. A couple of them actually stepped back, like they didn't want to be caught breathing near me. She was still unconscious, the woman. My hand was still under her shoulder, and I had a choice. Back down, and look like I had something to be ashamed of, or stand where I was, and show them I didn't come from fear. I chose the second one. "She needs medical help," I said, loud enough for the people in the back to hear. "You lay a hand on me, you'll be stopping someone from getting it." Beardman didn't blink. He smiled like he was proud of how ugly he was. "You don't get to talk rules here," he growled. "You don't belong here." Now, I've been insulted before. I've been followed through stores, questioned at doors I had keys to, mistaken for the janitor when I was the keynote speaker. But there was something about the way he said it. Calm. Final. Like it was law. Buzzcut reached out, shoved me in the shoulder. Hard. That's the moment. Right then. The sidewalk didn't feel like concrete anymore. It felt like a test. Felt like everything I'd ever taught my boys, my real sons and the dozens of young men I've mentored, was waiting to see what I'd do next. I took a breath, deep and slow, steadied my jaw. I didn't raise my fists, didn't bark back. But make no mistake, I wasn't silent out of fear. "You're threatening a man giving medical help to someone unconscious," I said, voice low but sharp. "That's the kind of thing folks remember when it's on video." There was a shift, real small, a flicker in his eye. Like maybe he just realized this might not go the way he thought. But the damage was done. They'd stepped into the circle. They were close now. Too close. I felt their breath in the air I was breathing. And just like that, things started to move. I won't spoil what happened next. But let me say this. The balance of power. It doesn't always come with sirens or speeches. Sometimes it flips in silence. Sometimes it flips in 10 seconds flat. What happened next changed everything. Now let me tell you something about pressure. Pressure is when you're standing over a passed-out grandmother you just tried to help, and a gang of leather-wrapped tempers thinks you're the problem. Pressure ain't about size or noise. It's about silence. That tight, brittle kind that creeps in when folks watch you like they already wrote your ending. And me? I've seen that kind of pressure before, in back alleys overseas and courtrooms back home. I knew what time it was, but this time, the clock ticked different. The one with the buzz cut started circling like he was at a high school fight, chin up like he was expecting applause. Beard Man leaned over, his face just inches from mine. His breath smelled like meat sticks and cheap ego. "You going back off now?" he asked, voice slick with threat. I didn't blink. "I suggest you do." He laughed, loud. That laugh you hear from a man who's been getting away with things way too long. And then, right then, we hit second number 1. Out of nowhere, a voice boomed behind them like a thunderclap wrapped in discipline. "Is there a problem here?" Beard Man twitched. His head turned halfway before his body did. Mine didn't move. I didn't have to. Standing about 10 feet away, hands clasped behind his back like he was at a military inspection, was Gregory Miles. Let me explain who that is. Gregory ain't just some neighbor with a fancy badge. The man is a decorated Marine Corps vet, runs the local civil emergency group, and wears presence like it's armor. He wasn't flexing. He didn't have to. He took 2 slow steps forward. That's second number 2 and 3. Behind him, 4 more stepped out from the crowd like quiet thunder. Men and women. Black, white, Latino. Same black shirts. Same blue cross on the chest. Some had earpieces. All had calm eyes. Those trained eyes. The gang boys didn't know it yet, but the temperature had just shifted. "Y'all can't be serious," Buzzcut said, trying to laugh it off, but that sound landed flat like a tire in gravel. Gregory didn't raise his voice. "You just threatened a licensed first responder in front of witnesses. You need to leave. Now." That was second number 4 through 6, and it was silent. Not a word. Not a cough. The woman was still out cold, but even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Then the man with the chain stepped forward. He touched her. "That ain't right." Gregory arched a brow, the kind of brow that stops a whole conversation. He saved her from cracking her skull on the pavement. You'd prefer she bled out while you filmed it? That shut him up. Chain boy looked down like his laces got interesting. Second 7. Beardman's smile vanished. His eyes scanned the crowd. People still had their phones out, still filming, still waiting. And someone, I didn't even catch who, said, "Go ahead. Swing first. We'll make you famous." That was second 8. And that's when their nerves started talking louder than their mouths. Second 9, Beardman stepped back, just 1 foot. But Buzzcut noticed. He looked at his friend like, "We ain't doing this." Second 10. They broke. Fast. Buzzcut muttered something. Chain boy backed away, and the last one just turned and ran. Not walked, not shuffled. Ran like the sidewalk was on fire. The crowd let out this breath. A real one. Audible. Like we'd all been underwater for 5 minutes. I stood up straight, adjusted my gloves, and turned my attention right back to the woman on the ground. Like I had never been interrupted by ignorance in denim. "Ma'am," I said gently, "you're going to be just fine." Her eyes fluttered open. Confused. Scared. I smiled soft. "You fainted. I've got you." Behind me, Gregory and his team started directing people back, making space. I heard someone call for EMS again, even though I'd already done it 10 minutes earlier. The same crowd that stood frozen while 3 men circled me like buzzards now moved different. Someone brought water. Someone pulled out a jacket for her head. People shifted from spectators to humans. Funny how fast that can happen when power changes hands. I stood up once the paramedics arrived. Gregory looked over and gave me a nod. Not dramatic, not loud, just a nod that said, "You did right," and I nodded back. But inside, my hands were trembling, just a little. Because I knew good and well that if Gregory hadn't shown up when he did, this story might have had a whole different ending. Not because I wasn't ready, but because I shouldn't have to be. You get tired of fighting just to do what's right. And yet, here we are. This is it. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The culmination. Everything changes now. Stay with me, because what happens next flips this story on its head. By the time the ambulance pulled away, the woman sitting inside finally had her bearings. Betty, that was her name, clutched my hand for a second before they closed the doors. She didn't say much, but the look in her eyes, that was enough. She knew. And not just that I'd helped her. She knew what almost went down. She'd seen those men. She'd seen the silence from the crowd before they grew a backbone. She'd seen me, kneeling next to her while those 3 circled like sharks, sniffing at mercy. When the ambulance turned the corner, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding for 20 minutes. Gregory came up beside me, handed me back my duffel bag like it was a medal of some kind. "You all right?" he asked, quiet. I gave a nod. Not the confident kind, the heavy kind. The one you give when you're not all right, but you're used to it. And then we both turned. That same crowd? Now they were clapping. Let me say that again. They were clapping. Not a stadium ovation, mind you, but a hesitant, unsure ripple. The kind of clapping folks do when they feel like maybe they should have stepped in earlier but didn't, and now they're trying to make peace with their own conscience. Some of them came up, patted me on the back. "Didn't mean to just stand there, man. We were going to call someone." Glad it turned out okay. I gave them a smile. But deep down, I wasn't mad. I wasn't surprised either. See, Silence is easier than courage when the room gets hot. And most people ain't trained for heat. They freeze. They fade into the wallpaper, hoping no one asks them to pick a side. But me? I've been on the fire line too long to be surprised by smoke. I thank them anyway. Because truth be told, I didn't do it for them. I did it because someone had to. That woman needed help. And I didn't think twice about whether it'd cause trouble. I just acted. Later that evening, I was back at the center. The one where I spend most of my Saturdays handing out care kits, bottled water, and soft words to folks who feel invisible most days. I was washing out the portable cooler when my phone buzzed. My nephew, 17, smart, stubborn, sharp-tongued, had sent me a video. No message, just the link. I tapped it. It was me, in the street, helping Betty, the gang circling, Gregory's entrance, and then the part that surprised me. The 10 seconds, the silence, the retreat, the crowd, every piece of it. And it had views, a lot of them, hundreds of thousands. By the time I refreshed, the number had jumped again. Somebody had added a title. "This black man saved a stranger. You won't believe what happened next." I almost laughed. Almost. But I didn't share it. I didn't post it. I just sat there, the cooler water still running, watching that number tick upward. The next morning, things moved fast. Local news showed up. I declined an interview. Didn't need to be anyone's headline. I'd done what was right, not what was marketable. But Betty? She had other plans. She called the center, asked for me by name. Turns out her son was a civil rights lawyer out in Nashville. She'd told him the whole story. He had questions. Wanted to know how often this kind of thing happened. Wanted to document it, use it. Said too many people get silenced. Too many stories never told because they don't get caught on camera. I told him I'd think about it. But that evening, Betty showed up in person. With cornbread. Yes, cornbread. She walked through the center doors like she owned the place. Floral dress, fresh lipstick, hair done like it was Sunday. Said, "You saved me." I don't care what anyone else says. That's what happened. And then she placed the cornbread on the table, sat down, folded her hands, and just looked at me. "You didn't ask who I voted for," she said. "You didn't ask where I came from. You just helped me. That's all I needed to know about you." I didn't have words, but I cut a slice of that cornbread, sat across from her, and nodded. That night, her son called again. This time he wasn't asking questions. He was offering something. Said he'd spoken with city officials. They wanted to partner with the center, expand outreach, put protections in place for volunteers in public spaces, educate the public, keep moments like mine from turning sideways. The biker gang? Oh, they'd been identified. That video made sure of that. Their so-called club lost whatever scraps of support it had. No one wanted to be associated with men who tried to scare a medic away from helping a woman. Justice didn't roar. It whispered. It came slow. But it came. And me? I didn't change. Still show up every Saturday. Still carry my gloves and my quiet fire. But now? Now when I kneel to help someone, I don't feel like I'm alone out there. Because one moment of courage, even in the heat of ignorance, can light a fuse under a whole city. And sometimes 10 seconds really can shift the ground beneath your feet.